Right.
Now, when we get to this now and then, the problem that I have, and I've said this in a recent video of mine, that Paul and Ringo have been busy walking back their initial statements when they initially used the term AI.
AI. That's
And
exactly
there
right.
is this insistent rumor out there that what they're going to do is take Paul's voice and make him younger to match John's voice. Now, when that happens, I won't have anything to do with the single. Now,
Right.
if I like it, I'll admit that. I'll admit that on my channel. I'm going to cover it.
Absolutely, sure.
But that's it. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
You know, nice little toy, because that's what the Beatles' last single will be,
Right.
if that's true. All right.
Right.
And Bruce brought up, he said he couldn't be here tonight, but in the comments,
I saw that.
he brought up saying that he thought it was rather artistic to use the older Paul compared to a younger late 30s John.
Exactly.
Because
I like that.
because
I
of
like
the
that
title.
comment.
The title
Right.
is
Now it
now
just ties in again.
and then.
Yeah.
And brilliant, Bruce. Now you know why I did that short on Bruce. You
Right.
know, I mean, this guy always amazes me, because that's absolutely the way this single needs to go down.
Yeah.
Let's hear an honest Paul, okay?
Bruce is
And
great.
also, there's some additional information since I did a video on it anyway. Paul evidently is playing piano over John's piano, and I'm going to bet you right now, that's the main piano we're going to hear, and John's is going to be buried so down far in the mix, your casual listener will think that's him when it's Paul. Okay?
Right.
I predict that, first of all. All right?
Gotcha.
Why can I predict that? Because I've done multi-track recording. Okay? I know what I'm
That's
talking
right.
about.
Right.
And if Paul had the need to record over John's extracted piano, and if you listen to the original demo, it's a horrible sounding piano. Okay? And John sounds even worse. So, especially when he gets to those high notes. Now,
Right.
here's another prediction. That's where Paul comes in and sings. Because either that, see, it's not just a matter of, and I hate auto-tune, as you know. It's
Right.
not a matter of just him being out of tune and everything when he hits those high notes. He's a songwriter. He's just saving it for prosperity. This doesn't cut John down, right? It was a work tape. I've made thousands of work tapes in my life, all right? And I wouldn't show you any of them, all right? Sometimes it's me speaking into some phone, strumming with my mouth because I don't have a guitar, but I want the guitar part to go, you know what I'm saying? So that's what John was doing.
Yeah.
So I don't think for his main part of the verses, but when he trickles up, I think that's where they're going to have Paul, because I don't think auto tune could correct it.
I'm going to be interested to hear it.
If it's not Paul, then I'm going to start suspecting AI on John as well, because there's no way to repair that. There's too many cracks and crickles and total jumps. They'd have auto tune, which is another computer. All right.
Right.
And it going, at least there's a man at the knob for the damn thing. But anyway, and then Paul, evidently they have 2 tracks of George, him on acoustic and electric. Of course, Ringo has re-recorded his drums. Paul is on bass. And then also Paul is one of the arrangers for the orchestra. Here's my hope for the song. The arrangement of this song is so important, because I don't think the song is strong enough if they just go and strum along with John. He's got to add something dynamic there, right?
Okay.
So those are my hopes and dreams as I'm waiting for this single to come out.
I think people are more inclined to buy the red and blue remixes when they're put in the middle here, of the albums, and not at the very end. You might get to the end, and if you had the Red and Blue albums were left, and maybe Yellow Submarine was left, you might decide you don't really need those box sets. But when everybody's all hyped up waiting for one, and they put out something that may have been should have been pushed to the back, I think they sell more.
Yeah, I'm hoping that since they placed Now and Then on the third disc of the Blue album as the first song, side A, and the fact that side B it has only 4 songs on it, and the last song is I Want You, She's So Heavy. I'm hoping, because there's more to that recording. John told one of the engineers, cut it there. And that's why it stops there. All right. That's how they got that sound. I'm hoping they just tag it along and really juice it out. Only 4 songs. There's a hint. And once again, just like the Beatles book anthology, at the very end of the book, there's a statement by John saying he always has the last say or something like that. This last side begins with John and ends with John. That's kind of creative. So I'm not overly excited about the album proper, but that one side kind of, it's got me interested. It really does.
Yeah, right. Well, they are compilations of great songs, though. I mean, I enjoy listening to them.
I agree.
You get a sampling of everything listening to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like I said in my last video, I brought up Bruce again. And Bruce is one of those second generation. He's right after you and I and Nick Royce, right? And so that second generation, I bought this album when it came out, but I was in my 20s, my early, let's see, it came out 73. I was late teens when it came out, and I had it, and because I was excited because there were some differences and everything, and I would have bought anything from the Beatles.
Anything,
if you could prove a half-eaten sandwich was eaten by Paul, I would have bought it from him. Okay, all right. But I've grown a little beyond that these days, and to be honest, I bought it, but I didn't keep it when I let it go, and I never rebought it on CD. I wasn't interested in it. I've got a little bit more interest, but Bruce and his generation, this was that gateway
that helped
album.
them, discover the Beatles.
What I'd like to hear is from Bruce on his statement. We've been talking about your statement. I thought it was really good. Regarding recording using an older Paul's voice.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, right? Because otherwise
absolutely.
it's a huge tell if they de-age the voice, even though, does it sound like a Beatles track if they use the older Paul's voice? But they might just choose to do something more, I guess, in their eyes, artful, and do that contrast and just kind of make it more about where they are now. And it might be a play on the title itself and just add more poignancy to what the lyric is and what the sentiment of the song is. So it's just a possibility. I'm like, well, let me just throw that out there and see what you guys think. Yeah, it's something I consider because I'm like, I don't know if they get away with a completely de-aged Paul's voice. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's my only concern about it, and the fact that it's not one of John's best songs. I don't think.
No, I've always understood why George Harrison was kind of a post because it was always a weak demo. So it's like it's going to be very interesting to see what they made of this track because it's so bare bones and. Even though the one area it's going to benefit from, unlike the other anthology tracks, is now the technology is where it needs to be to isolate that Lennon vocal a little better. So,
but there's also the rumor that they're flying in, which sounds like now we're getting a single that's belongs on, what was that album where you had bits and pieces from each of the songs comped together?
Yeah.
Was that Love? That was the Love album, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I liked that. All right. I'm not cutting that album down. But if they fly in their vocals from Abbey Road, which is I hear is part of this, that's chintzy, man. And that I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, if they just use an but if I swear to God, if I hear Because the World is Round, I'm going to just blow my top, because that's been done to death.
Yeah.
That's been done to death already by them, right?
There's a great chance that this is all a big Frankenstein kind of thing, and that's
what I'm
the problem.
afraid of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
That is a good point.
And they'll think it's not cheating because it's all Beatle elements, but at the same time, it's like we're really stretching it, you know.
Yeah,
And,
we're gonna know in a few days. That's for sure.
And it is pretty bare for George. I mean, I'm glad that he's on two different guitar parts, but Paul is playing the lead guitar on this. There is lead guitar. I just found that out, which is not unbeatlistic. I mean, anytime George sometimes would be rather slow to pick up on what the other Beatles wanted him. And he was never a fast recorder, ever. No. And so that's why, he worked for hours and hours and hours on the solo for Taxman. And then Paul said, look, and George Martin, they both said, let's give Paul. And that's why Paul McCartney plays it. He got it in a couple of takes.
Yeah.
All right. So that's not unbeatlistic. I don't mind that Paul's playing lead guitar. I don't know where Olivia and son are all, Danny are all of a sudden saying, oh, George would have changed his mind. I kind of suppositioned that in one of my early videos on this, thinking that, maybe George would have changed his mind. But see, that's reinventing history. Yeah. George at last word, just like they're taking John at last word, said, no way, Jose. So
I think by hook or by crook, though, Paul was so determined to finish this track, because you can see through the years when they've asked him about it, he's like, one of these days, I'm going to go and finish that, and it sounds like, I think the minimal, we probably have very minimal involvement from George Harrison. They say guitar, but it's like, Paul's playing a lot of instruments on this, so he's kind of like really the orchestration behind it. Yeah. And then you're going to get like a fuller thing, in terms of the arrangement. So,
well, he's on piano, bass, lead guitar, and he is the arranger and he sings.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow. And I'm betting
release?
And I'm betting he'll get a producer credit on this too.
Yeah, sure.
He is. He's like co-producer with Giles.
Okay.
Murray.